Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the studio. As you can see here behind me, it's now time for our next industrial and societal panel. It's a huge panel with lots of smart people, and the topic is digital shift, data-driven decision-making, and it's hosted by Sandvik and Seco tools. And after that, it's time for our next keynote speaker, so stay put. Welcome.
Thank you, Paulina. Welcome everyone to our session. We are happy to have you here. So we are talking about data and making the digital shift. You've been hearing a lot of speakers talk about what digitalization means to their respective industries, their respective field of work. You might have noticed that it means different things to different people in different contexts. It all starts with the purpose. What do you want to do with it? Why you want to do it? And how do you want to achieve it? We at Sandvik, we believe that there are the three key pillars to our digital strategy. It always starts with the business strategy and the vision. What do we want to achieve? Then, which is ably supported by our engineering and R&D departments. They figure out what to do with it and how to do it. And not last but not the least is our technology partners. We can't achieve it if we don't have the right tools and technology that can get us to the goals. And that's why today with me, I'm very honored to have with us representatives of all the three different pillars. We have Dean and Petra representing our business and strategy leadership. Then we have William and Michael from our R&D and engineering. They're going to talk a little bit about the kind of challenges that are thrown to them and how do they go around it. And then we have Jonas and Michael from our technology partners who will actually share a little bit about how they see our take on it. Without further ado, so let's just start with you, Dean. I mean, maybe you can introduce to our viewers a little bit about the mining context and what are the kind of challenges there?
Okay, so yeah, thank you very much, Vandana. I think if we're looking at mining and the challenges that we have there, mining is a very old profession. I think it's a profession that's littered with opportunity. And what we've seen, from where we get involved, where we drill the very first hole in the ground, and then we blast it. So we sort of breaking rocks like a rock factory. And that rock sort of goes through the process, ends up in the crushers where Petra's involved, her part of the business. That whole process has a lot of data. Mining might seem quite simple, but there's a lot of data. And we have, in the past, when we're looking at collecting data and when we look at rock tools specifically, in my case, it's about performance and how those rock tools last. And historically, when we're looking at mines, we have people that collect data, pen and paper, they file it, they store it away. We have people that are working on Excel spreadsheets. And then we get to the situation where we might have a problem that we want to understand. And the analysis of that data then normally takes days, weeks, sometimes even months to understand it. And you lose an opportunity to improve your productivity and performance. And I think those are the sort of challenges that we've been experiencing within rock tools, as an example.
And what would you see are your digitalization vision and strategy? How are we addressing these things?
Yeah, so what we started doing is started building applications with some of our partners that we have, and with those applications it's about collecting the data, and then once we've collected that data, it's about how we use that data in advanced analytics, and then actually try and understand the data sort of in real time. And when we can do that, then we can start impacting performance in very specific points and very specific times. So strategically, that's there to not just improve our own performance, but how we then, improve the customers' operations as well. And that has, added benefits. So if we're increasing our productivity, it means we're improving safety. We'll get to maybe hear about circularity and sustainability a little bit later. But that is, when our rock tools are performing better, we're doing more with less. So we have this sustainability benefit that comes in as well. And then as well, we get to reduce waste. And I think, Petra, you've had some similar challenges as well in the industry.
Yeah. So we take on, when you are done underground, where Sandvik is a dominant player, the stone comes up from ground and we take on. But Sandvik above ground is a niche player, so the strategy from a digital point of view is slightly different. We see that we need to support operational teams rather than head for sort of the platform perspective. Saying that, though, the ideas for what we can do to support our customers, because in terms of predictions or video cameras and analytics in real time, close to the machines, the ideas are endless. They are not our problem. Our problem is rather than to sort of sort out where do we start, what is most strategic for the customer, to what will help them best in the first place, and how do we grow this journey together with the customer.
And how do you see that the next few years, what are you going to be key focus areas?
Yeah, so as I said, we're a niche player in this segment of the mine site or the construction site for that purpose. And we need to start from being the extension of the machine that we already sell, go in depth in terms of AI and predictions and assistance in operation towards our customers. And then, of course, we need to think about them being a niche of their IT platform. We need to understand how to interact with the other IT services that our customers will use next to a service from us.
That's very interesting. And you mentioned about the AI and the predictive things and data, and I believe that is one of your pet focus area, William.
Yeah, it certainly is. We come from sort of the same background. Sandvik is a huge company. You sort of have the analog problem of drilling a hole in a rock, right? And we have the sort of same challenge of just cutting a piece of metal with another piece. But we don't come from the software world. We produce analog products and they have to solve a really analog problem. But the sort of digital complexity around this is enormous, because once the core business starts to build, then we have 50, 60, 70,000 different products that we have to maintain and sell around the world, while keeping our customers happy. So we have to address the sustainability issues that comes with actually producing analog things along with keeping our customers happy. So of course, a great way to solve this is through cutting edge technology. So working with sort of machine learning and predictions, it sort of starts with describing what that is. So machine learning is building a pattern on past phenomena, and artificial intelligence is when that actually starts to mimic human behavior. So an interesting example of that is what we recently had with forecasting, where we actually try to just find the 5 most interesting values to look at to predict how customers buy. And we set out for months doing that project, but what it ended up with was just when are businesses open around the world and when are they closed. So usually the problem can also be a lot closer to home than what we might think. But this also requires traceability through the entire chain. And that is actually what you, Mikael, are working on.
Yes, that's true. So I'd like to explain the concept of full traceability a bit more. To my mind, you need 3 things to do that. First of all, you need some kind of way to identify the item that you're producing. You also need to have some platform to collect all the data you've been talking about. And you also need to contextualize that using integrations to other systems like ERP systems or MES systems. It can be described in another way also. If you start with the mining that you talked about, mining metals, producing some tool to cut another piece, and then you have the recycling. So the full life cycle of the item that you're producing will demand these three different pieces. And if you start by that, also makes it possible to actually work with several different things in this area.
No, but I think the common challenge of traceability through that entire chain means that for every piece that we actually manufacture, so the quantities that we sell in millions every month, we actually need some way of tracing that individual insert. Because otherwise, there is no way that we're going to reach that entire goal of actually being sustainable through the entire chain. It's sort of like I got engaged recently, and then I bought a diamond. And on that diamond, I get a small brochure, and that actually tells me the exact diameters of that diamond in a small folder.
Yes.
And it's super valuable for me as a consumer to be able to see where it comes from, the measurements of it, something that is unique to that product. So it gives me as a consumer some way of sustainability, and it also, of course, provides the company with tremendous amounts of feedback through the entire chain. Where did it come from? What the diameters of that actually is, and how we don't sell diamonds, but how so we should actually treat our products like small diamonds.
Yeah. Yes, that's true. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I think what we're hearing from the business to this thing is all about the information is very key. Data is the new oil, right? And we need to be able to make sure that, as I hear from you, we need to go from the age of where people are writing on Excels and papers to make sure we are collecting the data. It is reliable, it is consistent, it can be interpreted, it can be communicated to our end users in a meaningful way. Now, in all of this ecosystem, in a software world, we know that it does go through a zillion different technologies and platforms and infrastructure and all the other whatnots. And that wouldn't be possible. And if we look today, we are in an ecosystem of technology where there is not just one or two or three big players. It's a big ecosystem where technologies need to work together. You can't just say that we build our monolithic application in one stack or something. Everything is seamless flow. And I think with that, I'd like to bring in Jonas into the discussion. I mean, you've been also listening to this kind of a digital journey from us as well as other customers. What do you see are the current trends?
Yeah, thank you. But I think what I like hearing you guys talk about this area in general is that you're really trying to solve problems you actually have. Very clearly on sustainability, on machining, on drills, and I think that's one of the most obvious trends currently is that the hype cycle of AI and analytics has moved into something else. It's meaning that the scale of the type of problems we are trying to solve is on an industrial scale. We need it to work everywhere across the world with different type of scenarios and stuff. So one of the key trends I see is similar to how we have engaged with customer on DevOps and DevSecOps. We now see more and more customers adopting what is called MLOps, or machine learning operations. So basically keeping track of versioning or managing your models. You have to keep track of data drift, and you also have to be able to actually maintain it. So I think that's one of the clear trends we see right now. Another one is of course skilling, making this shift from monolithic applications into working with an ecosystem of different vendors like us, like Outsystems, demands a lot of new skills. You need to work across your business with IT, with business development, and this is something that you need to take very seriously when you do this. Third point I would make is traditionally analytics has been very much about a central platform, build something in the center that can serve everything. But what we see is that the scale and again the industrialization of this means that you need to think differently. You need to create domains of data, one for finance, one for HR, and then you create interlinks and the ability to work together. So I think that's MLOps, central platform, skilling, something like that.
And I know that your own core specialization is analytics, and I think you've been seeing that in most of our use cases that have been exampled. Analytics is kind of, whether it is predictive analytics or forecasting or all that. what are your key things and trends you see? Where are customers going? I mean, we've seen this journey from plain historical reporting, and then yes, there was a hype of being able to do, being very predictive and being able to do that. But what can you share with us and our audience about what do you think are the next best thing that's going to come?
I think for probably a couple of years, we are still very, very early in this cycle, which means that I don't expect, there will be a lot more tools available. The actual technology stacks have seen a tremendous development in the last couple of years. That will continue, meaning that whatever you learned yesterday is probably not what you need to know tomorrow. So I think that will definitely keep a trend. But then, given that I believe we are still early, I don't expect, real revolutionizing things. I think rather that what we'll see is the industrialization. That instead of 3 proof of concept, you have 17 business areas with 11 strategic initiatives each, and then you have to staff to actually deliver that.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically the kind of the use case, be fast to innovate, try it out, and not be afraid to fail, so that we can just see what's the idea and this. And that actually brings in me to a very more interesting and contextualized things. We talked a lot about the data, we talked about technologies being what we want to be able to do. The other more important thing is what I think is also something very popular is about composable architectures. What we mean by that is being able to prototype these kind of apps. By apps, we mean these functionalities that we want to try it out for our own purpose, or we want to put in front of our customers in order to help them either to make it easy. Just everybody has a smartphone, take a picture, you get some data in, so they don't have to do anything, or to be able to find, is it the right spare part that you need for your crushing and screening? Or maybe to figure out a troubleshooting. So for all of these things, these are examples of what we call little bit small composable applications. We would like to prototype and build it fast. We also see that it would be something more like the business has a lot of these ideas, and we are not coders or developers. We don't want to sit and write million lines of code before we want an idea. And in that context, that brings us to Outsystems, where we, at least at Sandvik, we found that here is something that we could actually play with. So with that, Michael, maybe you could introduce us a little bit to the what is Outsystems, and why are you the kind of the next cutting edge things, and how are you planning to revolutionize and help us?
Yes, thank you. Well, I think, and listening to you, I think it's super exciting because what you're in essence doing is, digitalization for the real world. You're deep in the mines, you're crushing things, and, it puts enormous demands on the type of apps and applications you actually use in real life. And also then all this data that is available drives for this huge need to quickly figure out how to do things, try it out, and then take it into some production line. So that's actually where this concept of low code comes in. It's like pre-coded elements. So instead of writing lines over and over again, where you actually do it all over again many times, you use what I like to call Lego bricks, which makes it a lot more easy and quick to come to these prototypes, but also to productize things. And I think that's super exciting. And when you then think about putting such a platform in place in a company like Sandvik or Seco tools, in a given period of time, what you have is specific Lego bricks to your company. So there could be like integrations to some backends that you can reuse over and over again. There is some type of user experience that you can reuse. So I think it's super fascinating that in a couple of years' time, when you're ahead on the journey, the sky is the limit, and sooner or later this digitalization for the real world could actually become reality. And what we're seeing as a consumer today is we have like enormous amounts of apps, and we can do basically anything. So my prediction is that in a couple of years at Sandvik, you'll have a lot of exciting apps and the sky is the limit. Is that, Vandana, what you were looking for?
Of that, hopefully. But then a question, a follow-up on that is that since we are talking about digitalization and the things, and we have been now discussing specifically what in the mining context and Sandvik context is the key things in it. But you are actually, both you as well as Jonas, you are working with many different customers from different industries. What would you, let's start with you, Michael. What are 3 things that you see is kind of like, yep, you guys are doing something similar, or you're facing the same challenges like most others? Like, I like to know, like, what are the same things, and if there are something which is different and unique for us, just to get a perspective on it.
Well, I think your business is definitely not the most straightforward one, for obvious reasons. I think that's certainly where you're different. I think what you are doing that some other companies doing as well today is when you have these Lego bricks, you can actually work much closer, business and the people who actually build the software. And I think that's super exciting, and also would be interesting to hear your experience about it. What else? I think another common area is that your landscape is extremely complex, or let's say it's not very simple. And I think Sandvik has been around for 140 years. So there is this history. If you compare yourself to the likes of, I don't know, Netflix or any other company that's been around for not that many years, they have this unfair advantage to start from a clean sheet of paper, and you don't have that. So you actually have to think a lot about, how to glue this digital experience together with your legacy and your backend. And I think that's something that you definitely have in common with most of the companies in Finland.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sweden.
Yeah. Thank you. And I think that's an interesting thing. And let me bring back the discussion to you, Dina, and this. So you are representing, like when you're talking at the top leadership level, you and Petra and the leadership team, and I think taking up on where Michael was pointing, we do have a history, right? And digitalization is usually a people and a process transformation, right? It's a kind of the shift, making the shift. So the technology part is probably the easier puzzle to dig. So what would you like to share with our audience about the kind of thought process and, like, what do you see we have to do this, but these are the challenges, something like that?
Would you like to go?
Yeah, focus on the user. And we know our customer, we know our user in relation to the equipment and tools we sell today. But we don't know our users as well when it comes to digital. So we need to go out now and see how they work, how we could support them with digital, because it goes slightly broader than the equipment we sell today. And that's a new way of working in a sense, because we can't hide what we work on and then all of a sudden, surprise, we need to work it out together with the user. So it's technology and it's the business, as you say, but it's also the customer that we need to stay very close to.
Yep, and I agree. I think it's about understanding your customers' needs and the data that we're collecting. How can we use that data to actually enhance their performance as well as ours? And I think when you unlock that, and we actually see the improvements, we can also then use that data within our own business in R&D as an example to sort of improve our own products based on the data we've received. And it is a new world. It's a young profession and an old profession, if you can call it that, right? Absolutely, I agree.
Great. So I think we are almost going to things. But if we wanted to wrap up, I'm going to go round table. I think you can each have about a minute. So if you had to have 3 things, 3 mantras or kind of takeaways that you would like our audience to say, yep, this is what we want to talk about. So.
Yeah, so for me, I think it's about digitalization and mining. For me specifically is, this is an industry that hasn't had this sort of digitalization for very long, and I think there's a lot of opportunity. So, when people are potentially looking at going into this from a careers perspective, have a look into the engineering world as well. We have a lot of problems that we can solve, and we have a lot of data. And I think I won't give you 3 takeaways, it'll be a single takeaway. But I think it's an invitation for people to look outside of what is traditionally digital and look into other areas where we can actually improve not just our businesses, but also use that data to improve our planet. For sustainability and circularity.
It's a very interesting market, and it's a global market. So you have customers in Chile and in Australia, and you need to build a digital service for them. It's not like a taxi app and you go out on the street and ask for if the button should be to the left or the right. So the complexity is very interesting. And saying that, though, we need to understand that it's not about sort of a VR application as of tomorrow. We need to sort of strategically work this out. What do we run on first? What are our customers prepared to start to use tomorrow? And again, work this out together with our customers.
Thank you, Petra.
For me, it's all about solving sort of the analog problem with high-end tech. I think, Mikael was into it before, that I don't want to build POCs. I don't want another advanced analytics or machine learning POC. I want to do the real thing. So the POC is just a way for us to fail fast. And for us, that is not the knowledge of an IT company. It's about the knowledge of the process. So for us, it's all about combining great engineers and great process knowledge with the sort of the technology backbone that we have as well. So for me, it's also one finding. It's about how we solve the analog problems.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess what I was trying to say previously was that the biggest challenge is this full traceability. That's really a big challenge. But in the end, I would say that what I would like to do is to provide some means of getting the correct information to the correct place at the correct time. Yeah. That is what we are trying to do.
Jonas, 3 or whatever is the key message you would like our audience to remember?
I think interesting things happens when you start connecting your products digitally. And there is a vast amount of different problems that you can actually solve when you have that connection. And we see it basically in every industry we work, that you connect your products, you get feedback back, you can then start to adapting the way the user interface look, the way you communicate with customers, and also how you actually sell. So it's kind of, we are still very early, but I believe this will change many, many things in traditional industries as well.
Thank you. Michael, final words.
Final words. See, I think I'm trying to extrapolate some trends based on the discussion here. So I think one thing is that certainly companies will start to do business in a new way with their customers, maybe. Maybe they don't only sell products, but they sell something else. So I think that's exciting. I think there are new technologies available there, like low-code that I spoke about is definitely something that would be interesting for people to look into more, I believe. And I think, speaking about business and engineering working closer together, I think there's definitely also the need for this somehow a specific role in between that actually brings them together. And that's, I think, a new competence maybe that we haven't seen so much before. So I think those are some interesting trends maybe to extrapolate from our discussion.
Thank you very much. I think it's been a very fruitful and interesting discussion, and we hope that all of you who have been watching and listening to us, you found something relevant. Just know that you're not alone. If you are, whether you are a business or you are a kind of like a software engineer or a data scientist, please know that the data is everywhere and there is a need to contextualize it, to visualize it, to make it meaningful in many different contexts. So whatever be your kind of future that you look for, there is infinite options, and the sky is the limit.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Thank you.